All right, Puppy's back again to help me explain Lab 3. So this week in Lab, you're going to be doing a tsunami risk assessment for the community of Port Alberni. So you're going to be combining multiple pieces of information. You're going to use a digital elevation model and a water bodies layer to determine an inundation zone based on an elevation criteria and a maximum inland flood criteria based on proximity to the coast. And we're going to match that up with some population data, properties layers, and road data, along with some tsunami warning sirens and some tsunami shelters to try and figure out how Port Alberni is going to be impacted by a tsunami. So what's the population at risk? What properties might be damaged? Is the capacity of shelters high enough? Things like that. And so for Lab this week, contrary to what you've done so far, which is called point-and-click GIS, where you just find a tool, you run it, and then you find another tool and you run another output, or run it again on another process, we're going to use something called Model Builder. And so Model Builder allows you to string together a series of tools into a model and run that as a process rather than doing one by one by one. And so the main advantage of using Model Builder is that, well, there's multiple advantages. You can visualize your workflow so you can see what you're doing. It makes it easier to see when you've made a mistake. And you can share it so you can send your workflow and share it to other people. And the model can be repeated and edited. So if one of your input layers changes, it's easy enough to switch that out and rerun the model. Or if there's a criteria within your model that needs to change, it's very easy to edit a parameter and rerun the model. So like we're going to encounter that where we're going to need to change an elevation threshold. It's very easy to redo that and rerun your model. If you're doing this by point-and-click GIS, you'd have to rerun the whole process. And it would just be a huge pain. But with Model Builder, it's very simple to just change a parameter, hit run, wait a minute, and your model reruns. So this is a look at what your final model is supposed to look like. Taken off. Just sit down, little doggy. So this is a look at your final model. And so you can see it's like a flow chart. It just strings together a series of processes, input, output, step. And so they're connected with a string of lines to show the flow of information through the model. So for Lab this week, you're going to get an introduction into sort of the full GIS research process, which I talked about a bit in lecture. And so you're going to frame the problem, identify and acquire the data, parse the data, do the geospatial analysis, and then generate maps and write a small report. So writing the report is important to show and convey how you one, did the analysis, and two, explain the findings. So you're actually going to work on interpreting your results and things like that. So for this lab, I've got a series of videos embedded in the lab, and some of the videos are from last semester. So I wrote this lab last semester, and I changed some of the parameters, changed some of the input layers. I changed the data source for the census data I changed some of the inputs. I changed the data source for the census layer. So some of the names might change, and I also changed the way that the data is specifically laid out in the geodatabase. So I've made some tweaks. Some of the things might not look exactly the same as they do in some of the videos. I've updated the videos that are pertinent or relevant, and left the old videos where it doesn't matter or doesn't make any difference. So don't worry if you like your table of contents or your catalog pane doesn't look exactly the same as it does in some of the videos. The point is that all the steps and the procedures are still the same regardless, so don't stress if things don't look quite